Oh, looks like we are live on Question Everything for the very first time on StreamYard. And because we are live, that means I have skipped over all of those episodes that are in my backlog and gone straight to Sarah Khan, Impact Architect, Chief Ease Officer of Corporate Rehab, host of the Business Blasphemer podcast. Sarah is, how to describe you? You just have to listen to her to understand that she plays no games and BS is not her thing. And I love that about you. The first time we met, we were in tears together because it was like I met my sister from another mister. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is so fun, like knowing that I'm going to be able to do this and not have to go back and edit and do the description and all that. It's just, we're here. People are watching.
We're here.
There's no warning.
There's no warning. Bam, we're there.
And that kind of feel like, it kind of feels like business is like that at times.
It does. I think that you can prep and plan and curate and, trim and edit as much as you want, but sometimes things are just going to happen, and adaptability and the ability to try new things with fear is so important as a business owner.
With fear, do it afraid.
With fear. Oh, yes. Look, here's what I've learned. You're never going to get rid of your fear. So you make friends with it.
So like the adrenaline rushing through my kidneys, the heart palpitating in my throat,
Yeah. Okay, you know what? I saw this the other day. Simon Sinek posted something the other day where he was talking about his conversation, his interviews with Olympic athletes, and it's timely because the Olympics are happening right now. And, he noticed that when they were in interviews, reporters were asking them questions and then saying, were you scared? Were you scared? Were you nervous? And they were like, no, I was excited. And it goes back to the whole physiological, like the body does not recognize, like we don't recognize, let me say this again. The sensation that we have is exactly the same for fear and for excitement. The only difference is how we interpret it in our brain and what label we give it. So fear could actually just be excitement. And we're misinterpreting it because of past learned experiences or whatever, mental state we're in. But all we have to do is make that shift in the labeling of it, and everything changes.
Anyone that knows me knows what I'm about to say. Anxiety and excitement are the exact same energy. It's just what you choose to label it. They'll either mobilize or paralyze you.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we just jump right into it. But I want you to kind of tell people who you are as a corporate escapee. I know that there are at least 10 people on LinkedIn that are either going to see this or that are watching this right now that are like, you escaped?
I escaped.
Tell us about that journey. What was that
gosh. Like? Well, I always start the story with, I was the consummate employee. Like I towed that party line like my life depended on it. I was the unicorn, right? I was good at all the things. I volunteered for everything. I was the yes person. I was in early, stayed late, the ideal employee in pretty much any capacity. And a lot of different things happened. I was laid off twice, both times while on mat leave. I was gaslit. I was overlooked for promotion. I was like so many things, and I didn't take the hint. I just chalked it up to, well, my work ethic will get me through. Yeah. Long story short, COVID happens, and I ended up with a manager after having been laid off on mat leave for the second time. They did hire me back after a colleague of mine went to bat for me and just really, really advocated for me with the union and with the administration. And I came back and they put me in a different department. And I lost all my seniority. And it was just, when COVID hit, the manager that I had at the time was not, to put it nicely, they were unhappy that my children were also home. And that if my kids were in the room, I wasn't working, and just kind of it spiraled from there. And my mental health took such a hit that my husband was like, you need to just leave. Like, I'm fully in support of it. And I had never been without a job. Like, I started working at 13.
Wow.
And the only time I was without a job was when I moved to the UK and I had to wait 4 months for my working permit. That is the only time I've been without some sort of employment. And so for me to leave was terrifying. I had been doing some consulting on the side anyway, because, when you get laid off, you're like, well, I need something to supplement my no income. So I had been doing that. And I decided then in 2020 to lean into my side business full time. And, things kind of just went from there. So I'm an ex-corporate escapee, whatever you want to call it, who went into the online business space with 20 plus years of corporate experience, and who decided that she didn't know enough to actually be a legitimate business owner. And so started from scratch.
You gotta love imposter syndrome and the lies that it tells you.
It's such a delight, isn't it?
Oh, man, it's my favorite. We move to something new, and all of a sudden we flush all of our previous experience down the toilet because this doesn't transfer, right?
No.
But everything is a transferable skill. Parenting is a transferable skill.
Yeah. And the irony is that that's something that I taught, because I taught in college as well. And that's what I taught. Transferable skills. Like, how do I make myself employable as an entrepreneur? Transferable skills. So the inability to actually transfer that to myself, because, the whole, you're in the pickle jar, you can't see the label. It was a number of years of just having to get over that. That got me to the point where I am now, where, I became a service provider because I had so much experience in operations, and still had to take certifications online because I didn't know enough. Right. But now, I worked in operations, but I had started to see so many other women who'd left the corporate space, who'd left the traditional workplace to start businesses during COVID, who had all of this experience, but were doing the exact same thing I did, starting from scratch, opening a VA service and minding people's calendars and things. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because it's an incredibly essential service. But when you're coming from senior management, and saying, I don't have the skills to do this. So I've been working with primarily women to help them reframe their experience and reframe what they are able to offer to a business owner. And that's kind of, that was like the golden era of my online business. And now I'm kind of on the other side of it, where I'm seeing a lot of those same women who've been service providers for the last 3 or 4 years burning out because, they're providing high level support for business owners who don't respect their skill, who don't respect their expertise. Wow. And who are, again, they're being gaslit, they're being looked over, they're being treated badly, they're not being paid on time. And so helping these service providers now take that expertise that they've used to build successful businesses for other people and turn it on themselves, and use their expertise as thought leaders in this space to build a sustainable business that helps make the impact they actually want to make.
This is beautiful. It sounds like you went through something, and come hell or high water, no other woman should go through what you went through.
Yeah, that's something that has been very important to me. I have 2 daughters, and I don't want them to have to go through any of the experiences I went through as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, as an employee, as an entrepreneur. Like, why? Why do we have to constantly repeat the mistakes of our peers, of our forebears? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So if I can spare even one woman the struggle, the unnecessary struggle, because yes, there is some struggle that we have to go through as butterflies, right? But if I can spare you the unnecessary struggle, and that unnecessary struggle is usually the struggle of self-worth and self-trust. And so if I can spare you that, then my purpose is fulfilled.
That is so beautiful. That I'm reading in the comments. Tara is tuning in. Tara Todd. Friend since we were 13, 14. She's seen the entire thing. She is an entrepreneur herself.
Hi,
And
Tara.
I know there's so many questions for her.
Mm-hmm.
One of the comments that she had made was, can you see the comments too? I'm sorry.
I can now. Yeah, I totally forgot to click on it, but I can see them too.
Oh, that's so cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, make friends with fear. So good. Respect is so slim with this field for sure. Yet they hire you to do it. She's in, primarily she does like house cleaning right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we talked a little bit beforehand about some of the things I was going to ask you, but
yeah,
things are evolving now. And the self-worth part, like
mm-hmm.
that's near and dear to my heart, because when you know what it's like to never feel like you really belong anywhere you go,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's your community or, you know, you're different from your family, you're not quite the same as anyone, you're always separated.
Yeah.
To find a tribe of people that understand that same sentiment,
mm-hmm.
and are working towards making sure that no one ever feels that deep longing for belonging, or that deep hurt.
Yeah.
So the question's going to take sort of a, the question king here.
Do it.
And it's so hard to formulate a question sometimes. Okay, so when you took the leap and you made friends with fear, what does that look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're used to doing it now. Like, I can tell you that the fear, it used to be overwhelming to the point where I was literally paralyzed. And that still
mm-hmm.
happens at times when it's something brand new.
Yeah.
But for the most part, getting on a stage, getting on a live podcast for the first time, you know, meeting people and strangers. What is a stranger? Going and doing cold DMs, you know, like all the business stuff that you do,
mm-hmm.
all of this, when you operate at the C-level with stakeholders, like you sort of get used to that. But when you're at the bottom, and not the bottom, when you've not had that much experience conquering your fear, what does that look like building up? Like, how do we bridge that gap for them?
As somebody who is a consummate planner, because I was a project manager for most of my career, I am to this day sometimes still, but I was very much somebody who did not do anything without concrete plans. Like, I need to account for every single possibility around this one thing that I want to do. And I would spend so much time mapping out, you know, because when I used to do event management projects, like I would go out and do live events, contingency planning was a big part of what we did. And so that methodology is always in my head of like, here are the 27 things that could possibly go wrong, and here's how we'll mitigate each of them. And so that's how my brain works. And so in business, when I started, that was like, what I learned was that's fear. That's fear talking. When, I mean, it's one thing to plan ahead. It's one thing to be prepared. That's perfectly fine. And you should. I do not advocate just willy-nilly jumping into the fray and, you know, hoping for the best, because you should have some measure of, I don't want to say control, but you should plan. Like, don't, you know, but there's a fine line between over planning to the point of not actually doing anything.
Yes.
And that's where I think a lot of people tend to go. And then what we do is we see the planning as progress. Because it is such a mentally taxing thing. Yes. It feels exhausting.
Yes.
Oh, I've had a full day. Really? What have you actually done? How have you moved your business forward? You've just planned yourself into a corner, but you're not taking action. And I had to learn that. And I did a replay of one of my podcasts this past week where I talk about, and when I started my business, for the first 4 months, I did nothing but futz around with my logo and my colors because they had to be absolutely perfect. I dove so deep into color psychology and which exact shade of pink would resonate with my ideal client. And my brother was the one who figuratively slapped me in the face and said, "But you're not making money." And I went, "Oh, touche, sir." And so over the years, I've had to really rein myself into the worst thing that could happen is somebody says no or it doesn't work out. And I have to constantly remind myself of that. This is not a life or death. This is not, and sometimes it feels like that, especially when you have a mortgage to pay and bills to pay. And, it can very much feel like that. But when you operate from that space of fear, your brain is always trying to protect you. It's always trying to keep you safe. And it's going to keep you from doing the things you need to do, which is take the risk of putting yourself out there and trying a thing. My own coach last week, I attended a mastermind in Orlando, and she said, don't think that because she's like an incredibly successful human being. And she said, don't think that I succeeded my way to the top. She says, I failed my way all the way, failed my first pitch to the tune of, I can't even remember how many millions of dollars she lost, failed her next thing to the tune of whatever, failed her next thing. But it's all of those, what we call failures, that actually build up that resilience and that grit that you need as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And it's almost like tripping up the stairs, right?
Yeah. You get there faster, actually, when you trip up the stairs, right? You don't break any toes. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't break any toes, calves, ankles, yes, you will fly up. And you say fear, and I can't remember who said this, so I'm going to say it now. There is a difference between fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
Fear is very real. Fear is, I step outside of my house and there's a wolf. Probably won't happen in Texas. Maybe more likely to happen in Canada, right? But
coyotes, yes. Wolves depends on how far north you are.
All right, let's go with coyote. That could happen to both of us, right?
Yeah.
Coyote's out front. My heart starts racing. I'm trying to get out of that. That's real fear. But anxiety, here's the kicker. It feels just like fear. But it is not real. It is all in our head. It is all in our perception of what's actually happening. Yeah. It's in our overthinking or thinking about an outcome that we don't want, which is so crazy. We have this beautiful imagination, this ability to think anything we want to think and bring it to reality. Everything that you see in my room was once a thought in my head.
Yeah.
My life was once a dream of what it could be, and I brought it to reality, but we use this same mechanism to create what we don't want, or even worse, to create that analysis paralysis. Now, I was going to ask you, what's a consummate planner? I'm like, I've never heard that word before, or not in context.
Well, just that I was, I was very good at it. I was I was like a professional level, like expert level, ninja level planner. Like I said, I planned for every possible outcome.
Wow.
And I think the problem when you do that, it's like you said, you bring to fruition whatever you focus on, right? And if you're focused on all the things that could go wrong, you leave no space for the possibility of what could go right. And that is something that I have had to learn. And it's been a very hard lesson. Because I think the biggest awakening for me was in acknowledging the fact that I am responsible for where I am at all times. And one of the reasons I call my business Corporate Rehab is because I'm very aware now of all of the programming that we are given in corporate spaces, in traditional workplaces, that cause anxiety, that cause this fight or flight whenever a decision has to be made, because in the workplace, your job is usually on the line if you make a mistake. And so when we are faced with having to make decisions in our own business or even in our own life, that programming, it kicks up again.
Oh my
And
God.
we imagine the worst case scenario, but you are your own boss. Like you get to decide. And that is such a hard thing for people to acknowledge and really embody, because that programming runs deep. I still struggle with it.
Deep.
Deep, very deep.
Even when you get out of toxic environments and you enter into a place that feels like it's too good to be true.
Oh yeah, you're waiting for the shoe to drop, the other shoe.
It's like my current boss has this, I won't say boss. I don't like boss. My current leader, because he's a leader, has to tell me to breathe pretty often, because I will message him and be like, right? And he's like, breathe in all caps. It's okay. Like, let's work through this together. Like, this is your first time. I got moved from UX designer to program manager because I'm a people person, and I do that peopling thing very well.
Yeah.
And for some reason, you put a title on someone and a nice little pay raise, even though it wasn't much, it was a pay raise. I'm used to getting fired. So
yeah.
understand that any kind of leveling up, I'm like, okay, when's the other shoe gonna drop? I've been Sarah, I've been fired so many times. I think I lost count.
Oh wow.
I became a professional at getting fired until I figured out that I can actually talk through things with people, and I can let people know. I can tell the truth, right? You have these situations in certain companies, and I won't mention any names, but they know who they are.
I'm sure we do too. I mean,
right? And it's just like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's a popularity, no, politics. What's the word? High school.
It's very cliquey. It's very, you have to fit into the right groups. It's like you have to, there's a lot of mean girl, mean guy nonsense that happens. It's like grown up high school. You're absolutely right. A lot of these environments are like that. But this is what I'm talking about. Part of the programming that we are subjected to in the traditional workplace is one of competition, particularly with women. It took me the longest time to trust women once I left the space. The longest time. And now I am in spaces that are primarily, if not all, women. And I still have to remind myself, no, she genuinely means that.
Yeah.
No, she actually likes you. No, she's not about to stab you in the back. Like, there's so much, you know, and to be fair, even in the corporate spaces that I've been in, you know, maybe those women weren't out to do that, but you are made to feel that there's only limited space at the table. And so all of you women are in competition with each other for that seat. And it just creates this environment of fear, negativity, competition. And it's funny, I read somewhere once that most men thrive in environments of competition because that's how they're socialized.
Right.
But women thrive in collaborative environments, but we are not often given those opportunities.
Right.
And so that's another thing that's, you know, that I'm learning now, 6-7 years in. I'm learning that when I open myself up for collaboration, beautiful things happen, things that I never would have anticipated.
Right.
But it's, again, having to get over the fear of, can I trust this person?
Right.
You know?
And, you know, I've seen when you bring trust to the table first, right? Like, as soon as someone can sense that you don't trust them, walls go up. But if I come to the table and I've got trust and I'm open and I'm vulnerable, that's usually a mirror saying, oh, wait, hold on. Wait, you're not normal. Are you okay? What's wrong?
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
get that all the time. I'm either flirting or thought to be flirting or too nice. Like, there's got to be something wrong with you if you actually care or you actually like me.
Because we are taught, not just in the business space, but in life, that everybody has an agenda.
Mm, mm,
I had an experience recently, and I'm not going to give details because I want to respect the circumstances of the situation. But I had a situation, an experience recently where a great kindness was done for me.
mm,
And the people that I shared it with
mm,
were immediately, well, what do they want from you? Which,
mm,
to be fair, I thought the same thing. And
mhm.
I actually said it when they did the kindness for me, when they offered me this kindness. My first thought was, well, what do you want from me?
Right.
Because we are pitch slapped on a daily basis. We
Mm,
are sold to, we are made to feel like it's just such a constant refrain of what's in it for me, what's in it for me, what's in it for me. There's very little genuine connection for the sole purpose of connection.
right.
And so it's a very natural reaction to look at genuine connection as an agenda. There's something there, particularly in male female dynamics where it's, he obviously is flirting, like you said, or, there's no possible way you can be friends. With women, it's always, well, she's going to stab me in the back. She wants what I have. And so I have to hold my cards close to my chest. And between men, it's usually just, straight out competition.
Right.
I have to be the alpha in this situation. So and this is how we're all socialized. And it's just, it's enhanced in the workplace.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
So I couldn't agree more. And it really makes me reflect on gratitude for the company I landed with, because that is not the case at all. It is
Yeah.
such a down to earth company. But starting the business, I know eventually I'm not going to be an employee anymore. And so it kind of half makes me sad because I finally found a home that doesn't treat me like a redheaded stepchild. No offense to redheaded stepchildren. It's a saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the question, Tara.
Yeah.
We'll get to that question. That is an excellent question. Business Blasphemy. When I first saw your podcast, I thought, that's intriguing. And so I love to hear the stories, the origin stories of how people started. What was how did that come about?
I have rather a penchant for the rant, right? I'm very outspoken in that way. And it's funny because if you go far back enough in my social media history, you will see that I was also very, like, I will say what everyone else is saying, and I will, just flowery this and flowery that. And it got to the point where I realized it wasn't me. And I couldn't just regurgitate what everyone else was saying, because I do come from a business background and I could see where the lies and the smoke and mirrors and the nonsense was, and all the BS was, and it would just enrage me when people that I knew were being misled and buying into what I knew was garbage. And so when I finally kind of stepped into my true self and I started sharing my perspectives and things, it resonated with so many people. And I was actually really surprised at the number of people who were like, please continue to do this. Please continue to tell the truth, because we need this in the space. And I was like, okay. And they had been people had been telling me that I should do a podcast for years, and I avoided it for about 2 years. And I finally did it. And I was like, what do I call it? Wrath of Khan? Like, what do I do? It would have been perfect, but it probably would have been sued. And I can't remember what I was thinking, but I thought, a lot of what I talk about and a lot of the things that I address are the truths that the gurus and the big names don't want to talk about because it shines a light on their unethical practices. And it felt to me very much like, if I talk about it, it's almost like blasphemy, because there are truths, and I say that in quotes, that are sacred in the online business space, that people hold with religious fervor. And here I am flipping tables and saying, actually. And so it felt to me very much like blasphemy. And I thought, that's perfect. That's exactly what it feels like. And that's what it is. So
you said flipping tables, and I just went straight to Jesus. Come on, Jesus.
Flipping tables. Yeah.
Why are you making money in my father's house? No, that's greatness, man. So, and I got to listen to one and not get distracted, but like the replay you were talking about, the missing piece, why niche and offers aren't enough.
Yeah.
We've been talking about, I've been in Myron's inner circle for about a month now, and Myron Golden is talking about offer mastery, making offers all the time. I didn't know what an offer was. I thought sales was selling. I thought sales was convincing. I didn't know that making an offer was really all you're ever doing, right? If I'm selling myself, I'm just making an offer for you to accept or decline. But either way, right, that with or without you energy, either way, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to address that question in the chat. What would you say was step one when your brother lit the fire that you aren't making money?
It really was, because again, this was like very early in my business, right? Like when I decided I'm going full time now and I need to make this work. And again, I got stuck in, I've got to have the right logo and the right name and the perfect colors, because that's what's going to, if you build it, they will come. Right. And when he said, you're not making any money, I went, oh yeah, that's true. So the first step then was, how do I make money? And what I talk about in the podcast episode you were referencing is a lot of what we're taught in the early stages is you have to have the ideal client avatar, and you have to have, the perfect messaging, and you have to have the right social media, like graphics and things like that. Like there are so many things. These are important. I'm not going to say they're not. They're absolutely fundamental. But we can get so caught up in talking about our journey that we don't talk about the business. So when I say niche and offers aren't enough, identifying your ideal client, identifying your niche, getting really clear on who you want to talk. Yeah, but if you're not talking about your business, you don't have a business. And so that was the thing for me, because I was posting every day. I was creating smashing graphics. I was, ranting about things in the business space. I was sharing my thought leadership, but I was not making the offer.
Girl, get out of my head. It was me I started the podcast in the end of 19, early 2020. And someone asked me, like, what is your plan with it? Like, where are you going? I'm like, why does it have to have a plan? Well, it's not sustainable if it doesn't, right? If you have a business and it's not turning $1 into $2 or 0 into 1,000, right? Because that's really the landscape we're in now. And what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question, Tara. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It just came up. I love this. I love it when my brain works. Give us 3 things. 3 of your biggest mistakes that you would not want anyone to repeat in the beginning.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So one of them is don't get so focused on your posting, your marketing, your logo, your branding, your target audience that you don't move.
Yeah.
So we're gonna. That's one. That's the 4th.
That's one.
Bonus.
Yeah, that's the bonus one. There you go.
No pressure.
3 mistakes. 3 mistakes. Okay.
It will definitely come to you as you think.
And see, this is like the perfect example of when you take action, that's when things start to become clear, right? So I'm going to dive in and take action. 3 mistakes. thinking that you are talking too much about your offers. When I finally did start talking about my offers and, inviting people to come and work with me, you see every single post you post.
Yeah.
And so it seems like you are speaking about them a lot. But when you look at the stats of 1 to 3% of your audience sees your content in any given time, and it takes something like 46 different touch points before someone actually buys with you, you are not talking about your offers enough.
Yeah.
And I wish I had learned that sooner. And even when I learned it, I wish I had actually embraced it sooner because, so that would be number one. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you are speaking about your offers too much. You're running a business, not a charity. If people have a problem with it, they can go somewhere else.
Yes.
Number two. Pardon me. Oh gosh, number two. Do not do not collect friends and followers. This one's a little bit more, I guess, nuanced, because a lot of us are running our businesses from a social media perspective on our personal pages and things like that. So we do have a lot of friends. But friends and followers, likes and comments do not pay the bills.
Ooh.
And one of the things that I made the mistake of was having a number. I need to have 10,000 followers, or I need to have 5,000 followers to feel like I have a big enough audience. And when you put it into perspective, all but one of the clients that I have worked with, and I wrote it down, I made a list. I've served one-to-one over 80 clients in the last 5 years. That doesn't seem like a big number, because some people are like, I've served hundreds of clients. Good for you. I've served one-to-one 80 clients.
That is...
Many of them repeat clients in the past 5 years, 6 years. And
that's impressive.
All but one of them never commented on my posts. Never liked my posts, never engaged on my posts. They were all watching in the background and eventually just came to work with me. They were not like, I have a ton of fans. I am very blessed to have a very strong following of people who engage on my content. None of those people buy from me. And that's okay, right? So that was the other mistake. Do not think that collecting people is somehow translating to sales. Yeah, comments and likes don't equal sales. So that's number two. Number three, I think, is don't, and I'm calling myself out here.
Come on, girl.
Please stop thinking that you don't know enough and you need to keep investing in programs and trainings and courses. And I'll say that with a caveat. I am not saying you never sign up for a program or you never sign up with a coach, but do it intentionally by looking at the gaps in what is required to get you to your next goal.
Right.
I think a lot of us tend to hire people or sign up for things based on the marketing and how it makes us feel, versus stepping back and saying, what am I getting? What is the outcome of this particular engagement, relationship, whatever? And what is it going to allow me to do in my business? Because if you cannot clearly connect the dots, do not sign up for it.
Right.
Because you probably already know exactly what they're going to say. And instead, go join a community, a networking community.
Mastermind, just
a mastermind or something where you're around people. Because my guess is you just miss connection and you don't actually need what they're teaching or selling. And this is one of the things that I work with my own clients on a lot, is you don't actually need that. And I mean, I will turn people away too. If I say, why do you want to work with me? And they say, because X, Y, Z. And I'm like, well, you don't need that. Let's be friends, but please don't work with me. So it has to be intentional, especially when you get to a certain point. Actually, always, but especially when you're at a point in your business where you are consistently making money and you start to feel like you're stuck, like you're not moving to the next level. Signing up for more things is not going to help that.
Right.
Signing up for an intentional thing is going to help that.
Yes. When you find yourself in that loop of insanity.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to keep doing this thing, even though it's not yielding a result over and over again, because if I do it this time, it'll be different.
Yeah.
Definition of insanity, right?
Like, how many marketing courses do you really need to take?
One.
Right? Like,
I can't tell you how many times I've downloaded like someone's free thing, or I've got a course that was like on Udemy or something, or everyone's selling you broccoli.
Yeah.
We're just seasoning it different. We're putting cheese on it. We're putting it in cream sauce and like, you know, blending it up. And
yeah, unless you eat it, it's not going to do a thing, right? But we just like to collect the broccoli. I mean, hands up, everybody who's got a Google graveyard where you put all your freebies and you never see them again. You never use them. You never watch them, right? Yeah. That's
why you pay attention. And maybe that's it. Maybe we just pay so we'll pay attention. And I mean, it just makes me want to create a subscription service where you just pay me to hold you accountable so you can actually do the things that you already have.
That is literally what I do for my clients. I have people who pay me to just talk to me every day to keep them focused, because they're like, look, I need you to call me on my BS and like stop me from doing dumb shit, pardon my language, you know, and I'm happy to do that because I want you to succeed. And if you need me in your texts every day going, what is your goal for today?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to text me back at 5 o'clock and tell me whether you did it. And if you didn't, I'm going to ask you why. And we're going to come up with a plan. Like, I'll do that. And I think that that's the big thing. Like, the bottom line is most of us have all the information we need. We just need someone to hold us accountable to the action taking.
It's all in here already.
It's already there. You already know exactly what you want and you know how to do it. But it's that fear and that imposter syndrome and that you know, competition and that, am I going to look like a fool? Like, all of that starts to come up. And so you need someone to tell you it's going to be okay. Right? Yeah.
Talk you off the ledge for sure.
Talk you off the ledge. Yeah. Or sometimes push you off it a little bit.
I was going to say talk you off or push you off and show you, hey, you got wings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned the focus. I've got my little QR code for people to sign up for this Focus Mastery Workshop. I know, right? It's backwards. The Focus Mastery Workshop that's happening this weekend, August 3rd, 4 to 6. I know it's only a 2-hour workshop. It's also only $97, but we talked about it briefly here. The focus, like, it's what you focus on. And I'm loving that Tara is creating over here, and I'm seeing it pop up in the chat. She's creating quotables from us.
Oh,
that
yay.
We can post after this. This is amazing. Tara, please tune in to every show and be our marketing guru that makes our quotables. And like Sarah Khan, Corporate Rehab, with the question, everything branding behind it. That is amazing. Thank you. I can't wait to share these with the world. These are awesome. So why master the focus, right? If I don't design my life, someone or something else will. And I heard you say something about this earlier, that the world is full of other people's agendas, and that's where the distrust comes from. But the thing that we fail to recognize is that if we don't have our own agenda, if we don't have a plan that we're intentional about following through with or designing or creating, we are going to become a part of someone else's. Yeah. Right. And if you're not going to take control of your attention, which is really your greatest currency, right? Because there's a reason Facebook, Instagram, all these social media, they're free. It's because we are the product.
Yeah.
Right. And like, think about when Facebook sends you the thing and it's like, you're a digital creator now, you can make money.
And you're like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got my invoice last week for my 32 cents. I'm like balling. It's great.
Oh, girl. I feel rich. I got $2. I don't know where it is. I never saw it, but I got $2 from Facebook.
Yeah, you won't get it until I think you hit like $100, and then they'll pay you out. So I'll see you in 2047, right?
Yeah, in 2047. Unless, you know, I just keep posting stuff like this. But that's besides the point. Let's focus here. I know there was 3 different levels of people I wanted to ask you about. And you've done amazing at talking to the newbies.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure there's someone that's watching this that's like, okay, well, I've been in business for a minute. And I may not have made it to the C level or, be as seasoned as you are, but, I got a little experience. What do you got for me?
This is a little bit harder because it really depends on the person's goals, and it depends on, where they are and what their next steps are. But I think something universal is what I tell everybody: twice a year, do an audit of your values. Because values are something that we don't often give a lot of thought to. We know what they are. Like, some of us know what they are, and we're like, these are my values, and we post them on our website, and we're very, vocal about them. But when was the last time you actually sat down and said, do I still believe this? Is this still of importance to me? And I recently did this very exercise and realized that 3 of my 5 values had changed. They had evolved because what's important to my mission now has changed. And so if you have been in business for a minute, like, go back and just reevaluate your mission, your vision, and your values and see if they still resonate. Because sometimes we're operating from an old space.
Yeah.
And when we start to feel stuck or there's that resistance, it's usually because something's rubbing up against a value we don't realize we have.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You said that and immediately it came to my mind: courage, integrity, authenticity, trust, accountability. Right there. And that's just the 5 that, like, non-negotiable.
Yeah.
What is you
like
say?
Mine? Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say mine changed from, like, integrity is still number 1. It's always going to be number 1. That's never going to change. But one of the ones that changed was I went from kind candor, which was a value for a very long time, to intellectual curiosity.
Speaking my language.
Because do I really want, like, there's a whole reasoning behind it, but yeah. So I mean, it's important to make sure that you are still, because we operate from our values, whether we acknowledge it or not. And if we're not giving space to what is important to us right now, and your values are allowed to evolve, they're not going to, they're not going to stay static forever.
Right.
So take a look, once in a while.
Now, Tara just asked, how often would you say that's necessary? You said twice yearly?
I mean, I do it twice yearly, but even once a year is good. Like, just to make sure that you're, on track and things are still good.
What I was going to say was as you said that, I realized I hadn't really looked back, but it's not something I had to go and look at a spreadsheet or a Google Doc for to find out who I am, right? It's here.
Yeah.
And that's just the 5 at the top. But I feel like there's more now. Like, I didn't realize that kind candor could be a value. Like, I'm over here finding values from a list of values. And I think one of the values that I hold dearly is like deep connection.
Connection is value number 3 up there. Yep. That's a new one too.
Because it just, like, how often does someone connect with you? Like, people will ask you how you're doing, and it's almost like the knee-jerk reaction for me is, do you really want to know? Because, like, I'll tell you how I'm doing.
No,
and
people just want that great.
Right. Yes. Living the dream. Don't even get me started.
But see, so something you said, the sheet of values. When I taught at college, that's what I used to use. Here's 100 possible values. Circle the ones that resonate the most. And what I found when I brought that into my business, when I was consulting with people, was that they're very leading, because I think what we tend to do is we look at that sheet of values and we go, which ones make me look the best? Right? And so we can sometimes mistake values. We can mislabel what we're really feeling, and we lead with our ego. So I stopped using those lists a long time ago, and now I've kind of curated my own list of about 10 questions that have nothing to do with values. But when you answer them honestly and you look back at the patterns, your values become very instantly clear.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
you send me these 10 questions.
I can absolutely send them to you. Yes.
This makes me so excited. I love frameworks. I love questions.
I am the queen of Venn diagrams. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, did I mention I love questions? Venn diagrams, like the Ikigai or the... Have you ever seen the Venn diagram for imposter syndrome?
Yes.
What you know, what they know versus like what the reality is like you both know the same amount about different things. But as we were talking about earlier, right, with the collaboration, we're better together. Like there's no reason to divide.
Mm-hmm.
It comes to mind, divide and conquer, and the story of the Tower of Babel, how the people were building the tower to connect to the heavens, and he confused the languages so he couldn't talk. Like that's a age-old thing to divide so that people can't unite. Because could you like just imagine the power we all would have if we realized that there was no left and right, there was no division, there was no labels that we put on ourselves. We're all one race, the human race from the planet Earth, and we all feel the same feelings. We may not look alike, but we experience this world just about the same. We all long for belonging.
Yeah, I was going to say we all want the same thing too. If you really strip it back to basics, we all want, like you said, belonging, safety, acceptance,
adventure.
Like we all want the same things, but we don't share them in the same language. And I think that's part of the problem, right?
Same language or the same perspective based on our backgrounds and our experiences.
Well, I think those things influence our language, right? Like how we're able to talk about things. And I think that there's more money to be made in creating division than there ever will be in creating unity and collaboration.
Secrets again, Sarah.
But this is why we've got to prove them wrong. This is why it's so important to have conversations like this, because people are watching and they're going, oh, well, I resonate with that. Right. When there's no, like, Tara, thank you so much for being here and being active. But if you hadn't had this conversation with me, Tara would probably never have come across me and never heard my perspective and said, I resonate with that. And so you've created a connection now because you facilitated a conversation that would not have happened otherwise. And so this is why things like this are so important. So thank you.
You ever be like, how to put this? Have you ever been in a place where you thought you knew who you were and what you were doing and where you were going, and then someone says something that just reconfirms something that 97 other people have said, but somehow all 97 of them don't, like it's not soaking in, and then you say it, and all of a sudden I realize that maybe, just maybe, I'm here to make connections because I do that really well.
Yeah. And I think the thing that, and because I've learned this the very, very hard way, and I'm embracing it now, but what is it about the thing that we do very, very well that we constantly tell ourselves isn't important enough for me to do because it comes so easily to me? It's like, you know what? There's no need for the struggle. Sometimes you can lean into the thing that is very easy and natural because that's where your gift is. So stop fighting it.
Received.
I shall send you my invoice in the morning.
I will happily pay it. So wow. I was just actually, I've had this conversation multiple times in the last couple of months. Just why is it that and we're circling, we're making a full circle here. Why is it that we believe that if it doesn't come from hard work and hustle and bustle and jargon and keywords and presentations and all this stuff that like is a box that we have to package ourselves in to sell it so that we can justify hourly pay. If it doesn't come packaged like that, and it wasn't sweat equity or blood, sweat, and tears, it just comes naturally to me. That's not a monetizable thing. That's not valuable. But really,
you haven't earned it. You haven't earned it, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We do have.
Yeah. That was, and I'm sure, and I'm just gonna say it, but I'm sure particularly people of color, minorities, we feel this more. One of the messages that I got, because my father, God love him, he has worked so hard his entire life. When we were growing up, he had 2 jobs. Like, I mean, you know, he did everything. His reputation was important, and he never let people down. And he was and the message I got from that was, your work ethic is everything. I have 20 degrees and certifications, 20, because the harder I worked, the more credible I was. And so you always lean into the thing that is the challenge, because if you haven't earned it, it's not worth it. But when do we stop having to earn what is rightfully ours?
Hold up, I got a banner for this.
Amen.
That was a bar.
And I won't remember tomorrow what I said, but I stand by it.
Listen, when it's meant to be, when it's coming from the spirit, from within, you can't make it up. You can't replicate it. I remember being in this this is when I realized I was in the right place. When I went to the Offer Mastery Live, Myron Golden on stage, he said something and it was profound. And I said, "Say that again." And he goes, "I don't remember what I just said." I was like, so when you realize that the people you look up to, the people that you follow, are just being their natural selves. They're just showing up and speaking from their heart, sharing their purpose with the world, and you meet them in person and you realize, wait, this is really who they are. Like, there's no act. This is really what they believe. This is really what they're passionate about. They're doing it. They don't have to try, and they're getting paid for it.
Yeah.
It kind of opens a door that says, what if I could do the same?
Yeah.
So for the seasoned pros that are still dealing with imposter syndrome to this day and are suffering in silence, what for them do you say?
I mean, first and foremost, come work with me, because we're going to fix that. I am a firm believer that imposter syndrome does not exist. What we call imposter syndrome is programming that we have had all of our lives about who we are supposed to be and how we are supposed to show up, depending on the space, depending on the size of the room, depending on the size of the box, fighting with our true purpose and who we are told we are versus who we truly are. When they are at odds, we interpret it and we've put a label on it as imposter syndrome, but that is not what it is. Because this is not something that you are going to manifest away or journal away or affirm away. It's something that you have to embrace. And that is the truth of who you are and what you want to do. And a lot of the time when we feel what we call imposter syndrome, it's because we want to do something that we have been told our entire lives. That's not who you are, though. But that's at odds with how I know you and how I perceive you to be. And if you do that, you're going to lose your place in the circle. I don't understand that. It's everybody else's perception on you and the truth of who you are. And so what it comes down to is not Googling how do I fight imposter syndrome and, journaling 3 times a day. It is, how do I learn to trust myself and know that what I desire to do and be is valid, and it is who I've always been, and it is safe for me to be that person. That's the work.
I think my eyes are sweating. I have no words right now. That was powerful. And I couldn't agree more. Imposter experience, imposter phenomenon. The only reason you feel like an imposter is because, and I'm yes-anding. It's not a either or. I'm adding to your comment because it's too beautiful to just. I could end the podcast right there, just like that. Mic drop. Let's go. But you haven't taken enough action inside of the person you're meant to be, inside of your purpose. You haven't turned the volume on your why up enough to know that the only reason you feel like an imposter is because of what you're measuring against.
Oh, yes.
If I'm measuring against what my parents think I am, and I've been fortunate enough to never belong to groups. I've always been a loner. So I've never felt what it's felt like to be the crab in the bucket or the monkeys trying to get to the bananas before the ice water can get to them, right? Or the elephant that's tied to the stick.
Yeah.
I never belonged. And I never allowed myself to stay long enough to belong.
I love that reframe.
Get yourself around a community of people with like minds. A community of people that see the value that you have to offer, a community of people that will lift you up instead of condemn you, and watch that imposter melt away. Get around a room of people that will be vulnerable enough to tell you that they're afraid or that they're struggling or that, even though they make millions of dollars, they still struggle. Even though they make multiple 6 figures, they're still human.
Yeah.
What is the saying? The bottle of water does not change for the price to change.
Yeah.
The only thing that changes is the environment. And so if you don't like the results you're getting in your life, change your environment.
Change your environment, 100%.
Man. So I can keep going forever with you.
Next time.
I know. We're going to have to do this more often. I've already mentioned a couple things for you, but I want you to tell people where they can find you, where they can connect with you, where they can interact with all of who Sarah Khan is.
Yay. The best way is just come hang out with me on social media. I'm on Facebook as the.sarah.con, Instagram as corporate rehab, or you could just book a coffee chat with me and we can chill.
Dude, that coffee chat was like the most legit coffee chat I've ever had. The questions are awesome. It's just real. It's just real. You make me want to, you know what? I'm going to create, after this, I'm going to create a coffee chat. I'm going to have coffee chats with people because that's what led to this.
Yeah.
It's
And
also,
there's no pitching, there's no sales agenda. It's like, tell me what your favorite color is, tell me what your favorite subject was in school. That's on the form. And then we're just going to talk about stuff. We're going to chat like old friends. Because for me, and I'm going to do a little business thing here, but sales is, I truly believe, the byproduct of genuine connection.
absolutely.
You don't buy from people you don't like, and you can't like people you've never interacted with. So let's hang out.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm not even going to give it anything else. Yeah. Don't put your makeup on before the coffee chat. You may experience some eye sweat because it's just real.
Cry. Yeah.
Now, I do have one dying question before we go, or before we at least go off air and continue to get these gems from you, because right here, your left hand, right about here, there's a no.
Oh,
what is that?
This guy right there?
Yes.
So that you can't see the writing, but it says no pitch slap zone. And so a pitch slap is, when someone just hops into your DMs and they're like, "Hi, do you need this particular service?" without actually getting to know you. You've just friend requested them, or they've friend requested you, or they're hopping in with the like, "So tell me, are you accepting clients? Because I can get you 1 million qualified leads in the next, and it's immediately like into the pitch. And I call it the pitch slap. And so I operate in a very clear no pitch slap zone. And that's what that is.
Is this appropriate? I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there because it's us. That is the business equivalent of receiving a pickle pick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, I understand the analogy. Yes. And it is an immediate unfriending and a block for me. Like, I have absolutely nothing to give to you.
And if I don't get to that before they do the whole, "Hello, are you still there? Hey. And it's like, in what universe can you just that's like me leaving my front door open to get my groceries, and now there's a salesman in my house pitching me. Okay, I'm sorry. That's perfect. I'm so glad I asked. And then I see your pyramid over there. If that's the same pyramid that's on your website.
Yes, that is my entrepreneur hierarchy. Again, I am the queen of Venn diagrams and intersections and how things work together. And I identified 5 very clear levels of entrepreneurship and the conditions that have to exist at each level before you can scale to the next. And if you skip a level, when things get a little bit tough, you're going to come crashing down. So it's my sort of like 5 levels of, you have to have this before you can move here. You have to have this before you can move here. It's the path to sustainable business.
Oh, you are whetting some people's appetites for what you got, because I know at least 4 people.
Come get on a call with me and let's talk about it. I have a quiz that we can do on the call where we can tell you exactly what stage of the pyramid you're at and what your focus should be. Because we're talking about focus. Like, what activities should you be focusing on if you want to scale to the next level?
I'm glad you brought up focus. I'm going to mention it one more time. This Saturday, August 3rd, you do not want to miss this. Focus Mastery Workshop. We are going to be teaching you not only what you should be focusing on, but how to focus, why focus is so important, and how you can leverage focus as your greatest superpower. Because when you learn to master your focus, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do have a question for you, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, scan the QR code. It's over there. It's on the screen. You can see it. Scan the QR code. I want to see you Saturday. I want to serve you. What if you were to attend this Focus Mastery Workshop, Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
What would you expect to see?
I would, because I think so many things compete for our attention, I would want to know, how do I create focus? Because I think that's the biggest challenge, right? Busy work is not progress. And if I want to make true progress in growing my business in amplifying my impact. I hate the word amplifying, but amplifying my impact. How do I create an ecosystem for myself that allows me to do that intentionally? What are the things that I need to be focusing on to hit my goals, hit my targets, hit the things that I want to do? Because there is absolutely no reason for anyone to not be hitting their goals if you are setting them in a way that is intentional and realistic.
And I got those 4 moves right here. It's lead generation, lead conversion, customer ascension, customer retention. Those are the only 4 moves. If your business is broken, there's something wrong with one of those 4.
One of those 4 things.
It's always lead generation and lead conversion, because you can't even get to the other 2 without those first. Do you know, I coached a group of people. I know you got to go now. I coached
my kids are just like, come watch TV. So.
And, oh yeah, we got to do the family thing. Oh, you know what? I didn't even do the YouTube thing. We'll do it at the end.
That's all right.
Okay, hold on. So I was coaching a group of people, and I told them about lead magnets and lead generation. And I said, do you have leads? They said, what are leads? These are business owners. Now, leads kind of sounds dirty. It's almost like a pitch slap. So maybe like there's a lady named Sheila Henson or Sheila Hansen. I know 2 Sheila Hensons. One's the ADHD coach and one is the Kingdom Millionaire. The Kingdom Millionaire says her to love list. And I love that.
Yeah.
Right? It's perfect, especially for someone that does coffee chats and connects deeply. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. This has been an absolute pleasure. I want to talk to you for a second after we get off.
Sure.
Like, comment, subscribe, share. Hate me if you really feel the need to take it there. We can address that too. Question me, question you, question everything. Because that's what we do. See y'all next time. I'm going to do this little YouTube-y thing, and then we're going to end the stream. Thank you, everyone. I don't know how many tuned in. Thank you for watching. If you're watching the replay, I hope that you got value from this. I hope that your notepad is full of notes, and I hope that you go and do something with what you got here.